All right, welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a pleasant break. It's time for our fourth talk of the day. Please give a warm welcome to Bularca.
Hi, everyone. Before I start, I'd like to ask a few questions. So, how many of you are students right now Wow. And how many of you are hoping to release a game sometimes in your life? And how many of you are hoping to have your very own game studio? Sometimes. Wow, many. And how many of you have heard about Sweden Game Arena? Not so many. Okay. So, today I'm going to talk about opening a video game studio, and I'm going to give you 99 reasons not to do it, and one on why you should. But before we begin, I'd like to say a few things, and not just questions. First and foremost, this is my very first public talk, so I'm quite afraid. Secondly, I'd like to thank you. It's an honor for me to be here. And it's an honor for me to speak to so many of you who want to make games. Because I am a gamer myself, and you are representing the future for me, both as an industry professional and as a gamer. So I have very high hopes from you. Now, who am I? My name is Bularca, and I am born and raised in Transylvania. But I've been in the video games industry since 2001, and for about a decade I worked as press until I switched sides and I started to work as a producer and game director and senior producer in the video games industry. And I started to work for Activision and then for an Italian company called Milestone. And then I moved to Sweden and I worked for 3 years as a producer for Simbin, who made GTR series. Maybe you know about those games. And when the company closed, I moved to Hovde, and I'm currently a project coordinator for something called Sweden Game Arena, and I'm also a production coach for the studios that we have in our incubator. And I fully intend to give you a lot of details about Sweden Game Arena and what's happening in Hovde, and as of this year in Göteborg as well. But first I want to talk to the reasons on why you should or shouldn't open a game studio. So why am I here? Originally my boss sent me here to convince you to consider opening a studio in our incubator. Yay! But I'm not gonna do that. Actually, I want to talk to you about the difference of making a game, about the differences between making a game and opening a studio. They are very different things. And if you make a game that's a finite kind of product, maybe it matters for you to make some money with your game, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's a hobby project. So maybe it doesn't matter for you that much what you're going to do with the game. But if you consider opening a studio, that's a very long-term commitment to you and to your team. And building a studio is also a promise towards your future players. So you have to think very hard about that. Yep. I told you it's my first talk. Okay, opening a studio is something long term, and you're making a commitment. And I want you to really ask yourself if you want to build games or open a studio, because there's completely different types of work and types of focus from that perspective. And firing people is not an easy thing, and layoffs are not something that you probably want to do in your life. So that's why I want to give you now 99 reasons to really think of not opening a studio before you actually do that. So here we go. I actually counted them. There are precisely 99 reasons why you should not. And to start with, before you actually start to open a company, there's a lot of things that you need to think about. And what I would like of you to tell me is this. I do believe that the best conversations are double-sided conversations. I don't want to bore you. So stop me if you have questions, or stop me if I say some stuff that doesn't make sense to you or that you would like more information about. Okay, so before you start actually to open a company, you have to think long-term. How do you see yourself 5 years from now? How do you see yourself 10 years from now? If you're alone, do you plan to build up your team or not? If you have a team, do you see yourself with those guys 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And after many stories, some of them good and many of them bad, do you still see yourselves with them? And you need to be motivated. You really have to build something that might mean that you will not code and you will not design and you will not create sound and art, but instead you'll be talking about paperwork and team building and human resources and hiring people and evaluating and motivating somebody else who isn't you. So you really, really have to be motivated about that. You have to think about money. Of course, if you want to open a company, probably at some point you'd like to make some money, right? And you need to understand how you are going to make those money and how long can you be without those money, and what happens if you are making a game and it doesn't sell. What happens then? What are you going to do? And you have to make a lot of sacrifices, because when you'll have to launch your game, or when you'll have very difficult moments as part of your company life, you'll have to, not go home and play. You won't be able to go see movies anymore. You won't have time to spend with your girlfriend or boyfriend. You'll crunch because it's your company, it's your dream, it's something that you build, hopefully, for life. And you have to think about your company priorities and what success means for you and what failure means for you. There's a lot of stories in the video games press right now about successful indie game developers, like Notch, for example, but also about failed game developers, and you need to quantify both of them and imagine how would you react in both cases. What if you're suddenly very successful? With Notch, it didn't happen so well, did it? What if you fail? What are you going to do? And how will you keep your motivation? You need to have strategies on how to sell your game. You cannot think that today it's easy to put a game on Steam. That's not a strategy. Releasing a game on Steam, it's simply not a strategy. And you have to think if you are going to make money only through the sales of your game, or if you're going to search for investors for your company, or if you have some other strategies. And you'll have to estimate your work, and you'll have to set deadlines when you have to deliver stuff. Much more stressful than it is when you have exams or any other deadlines in your life. And you have to think about profits and losses and what you're going to do. And you have to share, especially with your team, but also with others. And there's this little thing called Dunning-Kruger effect, which generally means that when you start to do something, you have a much better opinion about yourself and you think you know much more than you really do. So you'll have to you'll have to be aware of that and try to really understand yourself and catch yourself when you are overly optimistic or when you are under optimistic. Maybe you should be optimistic sometimes. And two things that I hope that you think about before you open your company is think if your game development is a hobby, if making a game as a hobby would satisfy you, and it can be a very satisfying job. I did it, so trust me. Or if you could consider having a job, and if you like to code, or if you like to make music, or if you like to make art, if that's not the thing you really want to do every day, constantly, without somebody bothering you, and you have a salary coming, and that's quite okay. And if you consider having a job, there's a lot of benefits with that, because if you are in the industry, then you learn from the inside what it happens and how people react when things go good and how people react when things go bad. And you'll get a lot of experience and very many good lessons that will help you a lot to build a better company in the future. And you have to think of a long-term vision of your company and of your games. You'll have to be responsible for what you're doing. And you'll have to imagine the arguments that you're going to have with your team and with your partners and with your players. So those were 25 reasons. And now, do I have any questions for those 25 reasons? Oh, yeah, okay. Let's imagine that you said, okay, I really want to build a company. And you've decided that. You asked yourself, do I want to make the games as a hobby? No. Do I want a job? No. I really want to build a company. I really want to make something worthwhile and long-lasting, and I really want to do that. Once you've decided that, you have to think about the type of the company that you are going to open. You're going to have to go to Skatteverket and apply for a company. You're going to know the rules for each and every one of types of the companies that you want to open up. You're going to think about if the company is public or private. You're going to have to talk to your team. If it's an AB, you'll have to have a startup capital and you'll have to talk to your team. If just one puts the money, or maybe all of you will put the money, and that may determine the kind of rules that you split your company in between yourselves. Ownership is a very important thing, especially if you have a team. You have to think long term. You have to look around at your team and imagine the kind of discussions that you will have with them if you make a lot of money, or if you don't make, or if you don't make any money at all. And you have to imagine how will they react 5 years from now, 10 years from now, long term, and after lots and lots of stories and experiences, how will you react with them? And the better you define the rules of collaboration, the rules based on which you work, the better you decide how to share your responsibilities, how to define your ownership, who has decisional power over what, how do you split your work, what rights does anyone has. The easier it is for you, will be for you in the future to react if you have any problems. Like if somebody will want more money, or if somebody will have any claims for your work. And this is for your team. Your team is very important, but you need to consider also the people that you are going to hire. And the people that, if you don't want to hire, maybe you'll be working with contractors. And with contractors, you need to be very sure that you are going to retain the rights of the work that they are doing. Because sometimes just paying them is not enough. And they can come back 1 year after and ask for money of you. And you'll have to think about tax. Who here likes to do tax declarations? I don't like it. And you'll have to think about bookkeeping. And if you are not willing to do your own bookkeeping, you'll have to pay somebody to do it, and they're definitely not cheap. And then you have to have a business plan, and you'll have to have a marketing plan, and you'll have to have a marketing test, and you kind of have to envision your future of your company and put it on paper. And the likeliness, and sometimes this may seem redundant. Why should you put your business plan on paper? Why should you put your marketing plan on paper? Why should you write a plan if you don't know what you're going to do like a month from now? But even if this is just storytelling for you, it's a wonderful thing for you to learn. If your forward thinking is good, if your plans are good, and if you really are able to carry to your own plans. And even if you'll fail, the lessons that you'll learn from doing that are going to be invaluable for you. And then you'll have to think about company name. That's quite an interesting example. In Sweden, you can register your company name later. No one forces you to register your company name. And many do register their name later, but the mistake is that they start to market their plans and their games with a name that they don't have any claim for. And then when they submit, the name is taken and they have to rethink about all this. And so your hard work to try to make your company name well known is going to go to waste. So register your company name early. Now you have registered the company, but you have to consider how actually physically you are going to work with your team. Do you need offices? Do you need to pay rent? I heard it's quite expensive in Stockholm. Do you need hardware? What kind of hardware do you need? Do you need software? Do you need licenses? Do you need supplies? Maybe you need some post-its to tell your colleague, hey, I'm going to be late tomorrow. And you will have to schedule your team. Are you going to work together? Will you have some core hours? Will you work 9 to 5? What happens if somebody is late? What happens if somebody is late all the time? What are you going to do then? And if you decide, okay, we don't need to have offices, we can do remote work, we can talk on Skype or Facebook or Twitter, or we can do all that. What's the deal? How are we going to communicate? How do I know that I'm coding and my team member who does the sound is ahead of me, or is he behind? Is he finished with his tasks, or is he not finished with his tasks? Is he frustrated? Did we talk? Is what he's doing working with what I'm coding? Is all that working fine? How is that going to happen? So you need to have rules, and you need to have a workflow. And you need to have a way to quantify your work. And you also need to, talk to your team and talk about what happens if somebody gets sick. If you're sick, your project will probably be delayed by the time you're sick, right? If you want, maybe you want to go to holiday. Occasionally, that's a good thing. What happens then, and how are you going to plan it? And there's quite a number of ways to do that, and each and every one has a way and has theories, and you can learn yourself and read a lot about this, but none of it is literally game development. And sometimes you have to wear suits. Even if that's not you, if you're meeting investors, and if those people can give you money that will ensure the stability of your time for a long time, that's something that can be a sacrifice that you need to do. And you have to consider communication and your company image and business cards, and you have to have a website and a press kit and a landing page for your games, and you have to have a strategy. You have to let people know about what you do. I mean, how can someone buy your game if no one knows about you and your game? And these are the last 24 reasons from this talk of why you shouldn't make your own studio. And you really have to think long and hard about hiring and firing people. And sometimes what happens is that without experience, you start a team and you realize that maybe somebody from your team is not fitted. Maybe that person is wonderful, but he does not fit with you. And firing is a hard thing to do. It's a really hard thing to do. And also you'll have to consider hiring strangers, somebody that you don't know, somebody that you only know from a piece of paper. And you might have to entrust that somebody with crucial decisions for your game. And that's also quite a leap of faith. And you have to negotiate and trust and let go. And the let go part is I think very important, because when you build a company, it's much more about your game. And sometimes you have to let go. Even if you're very strongly invested in a particular feature, you might have to cut it. Even if you really, really, really want to do that artwork, you might not have the time if you're choosing to spend the time between building a game or building your company. So you'll have to let go a lot. And there's a lot of pressure. And there's a lot of creativity involved, and a lot of times, and that happens a lot for those who build their companies, that you envision a life full of creativity, a life where every day you ask yourself, what am I going to build now? If it's about the game of your dreams, it's about the art that you are going to do, the design that you are going to do. But it's rarely about that when it comes to building a business, at least until you really, really build it stably enough to carry on. But there's also a lot of creativity involved when you build a business too. And you might not talk about game design, and you might not talk about coding and art and all that stuff, but you're talking about designing a company, a studio that lasts, and a company that's fair and good with everyone who works for that company. And you're talking about designing tools and processes that empower the people that work for you. And you have to have a launch strategy. As I said, launching a game on Steam is not a strategy. You have to have a long tail. You have to think about patches, and you have to think about DLCs, and you have to think about follow-ups and different games. What kind of games you want to do. There's also not only Steam in the world where you can put your game. And I think I have to speed up a little bit, but there's a lot of things to think about. And the most important one is your wholehearted acceptance that as you build your company and until you know for sure that your team is safe and you are safe financially, the one thing that you have to constantly keep in mind is the stress. It's a lot of stress doing that. And it's a lot of stress because the responsibility is not just about you, and it's not just about your welfare and your creativity being satisfied, but it's about the responsibility of an entire team. Now there's one reason why you should, and I really, really hope that all of you will consider this more than any other that I've said so far. And that reason is, put a dent in the universe. The put a dent in the universe goes like this. We're here to put a dent in the universe, otherwise why else even be here? And this is what Steve Jobs said. And it's hard to build a company. But the reason you're doing is to build your own dream and to make your own little corner of the universe where you can make a difference. When you have something to say. When what you build is your own. And you will build your dream, not someone else's. And you will build your team, and you will be able to build it the way you think it's right. And you will have the ability to create, and this is an amazing creativity opportunity, so to say, the rules and the way your little corner of the universe works. And if this works for you, and if you build a good company that makes great games, that let people learn, that let people have a lot of fun, and that inspire people, and if you make the kind of company that people will want to come and work for you, you'll do more than just order your little corner of the universe. You'll be an inspiration for others, and you'll build a wonderful industry. So it's about much, much more than games. And I really believe that games can change the world. Now, the very good news is that it's very easy for you to build a company. And this is one option. It's not the only one, but it's one option. And for those of you who are not sure what Sweden Game Arena is, it's actually quite a difficult to explain concept. It's the international face of many, many things that have been happening for a long time in Hovde. And so Sweden Game Arena, we like to call it an umbrella organization that stands for the incubator that we have in Hovde and Göteborg, for the university that we have in Hovde, for the research center, and for everything that's happening in that part of Sweden and everything we have done. And this is us at the Gamescom last year. We do that a lot. And these are all the organizations, or at least I think they're all of them, that are involved in Sweden Game Arena. So there's Västra Götaland, there's Högskolan i Hovde, Hovde Kommun, the Game Incubator, Gothia Science Park, which is a physical place. And the game incubator is one thing that's a part of Sweden Game Arena. And what is the game incubator? We started this in 2004 in Hovde, and this year in February we inaugurated this game incubator in Göteborg. And this picture is from one of the jams that we organize, and this was for Ludum Dare 33. And if you apply for the game incubator, what's in it for you? And these are 25 things that are in it for you. And they start with the least important things going to the most important things from my perspective and pretty much everyone else's. If you apply to the incubator in Hovde, so we are offering hardware and software and offices in both Hovde and Göteborg. And the physical places are pretty nice. We have common spaces. In Hovde we even have a reception area. We have a maker space where we have stuff like Oculus Rift and Vives and 3D printers. We have quite a lot of utilities. Many rooms equipped with everything that you need to hold workshops and lectures and game jams, for that matter, that we quite often use over the weekend for that. We meet twice a week for fika with all the studios from the incubator and also outside of who graduated from our incubator. We have a lot of training for the CEO. And then I think now comes the important things that we are offering. And that's workshops. For example, last year we had workshops with Nicolas Lobel, who runs Games Brief, and he's probably the world's biggest expert in free-to-play. And then we had a workshop with Ernest Adams, who, I think you know who Ernest Adams is. And last year we also had, next week we have a workshop with Indie Game Girl, who probably runs some best marketing and PR advice for indies that I have seen, at least. Okay, and you will have your own personal business coach and production coach and industry experts. Like, for example, your business coach will help you not only with taxes and how to register the name of your company and what to do, but for example, they are the ones who organize workshops when the rules of the tax changes, like it happened last year. And they also have a keen understanding of what's happening around the world, and they are organizing, they're getting investors to Hovde and Göteborg, or organizing meetings here in Stockholm where everyone in this network can go and meet and try to get money. With industry experts, for example, we have a lawyer who is an expert in the video games industry. So it's a very good resource to have if you want to make contracts. And there's a lot of meetings with investors, with businesses, and we go to pretty much all around the world. We've been to GDC, to Gamescom, to a lot of local and international events. We have a lot of indies in our network. We have a lot of game jams. Oftentimes we organize something called Pitch My Game, which means that anyone within the Sweden Game Arena network can participate and pitch their game projects to get travel and lodging and the ability to exhibit to GDC or Gamescom or stuff like that for free. And there's also international positioning. We obviously, if you follow Sweden Game Arena on Twitter, or if you follow the Game Incubator on Twitter, you'll hear about many of the games developed within this. And these are the results. And right now we have about 50 members, and some of them are Coffee Stain, or Pieces Interactive, or Stanlock Studios. And so I think we've been doing quite okay. Right now in our incubator program we have 20 studios, and we are looking for more. And what's going to happen is, I hope that you consider it. And there's one more thing I want to say, and this is something that happens every year, but last year it kind of overwhelmed us because we organized Sweden Game Conference as usual in our science park, and we had many more guests than we estimated. And we had people like Chris Avalon, who made Planescape Torment and Neverwinter Nights and Fallout and stuff like that, and Ralph Koster, who wrote A Theory of Fun in Game Design, and Rami Ismail as some of our speakers, alongside many others. And all of them actually did the talk, which all the talks from last year from Sweden Game Conference are available, have been recorded and are available online on our website. But all of them also had one-on-one meetings with the studios who were willing to talk to them and get their advice and get their game evaluated and get some help with their pitch and get advice from them. So this year the conference will happen on October 2023. We will have 2 days of industry-related events, and we will have quite a number of hopefully interesting and big names to come and teach us stuff. And then another 2 days which are going to be a games festival where we are going to be organizing a cosplay event, an esports challenge, an open game jam, and probably a lot of parties. So I hope that you will at least consider coming to this conference. So that was all that I wanted to say. And I really do hope that you have some questions for me.
What is the criteria for joining the game creator? What do you need to follow?
The criteria is as following. You need to apply with a pitch and a business plan to us. And there's a bunch of us who will look over that plan. And we are looking for studios that we believe they want to build a company and not just a game. And also studios that can provide value to our existing studios. So we are looking for people who are friendly, open, unafraid of feedback, willing to collaborate and help other studios, understanding that this is bigger than them and building something together, and who have a focus to build something together. There's something that I failed to mention and I think it's quite important. You can be in the incubator for a maximum period of 3 years. And that's quite a lot. And in those 3 years, you pay no rent, you have your business coach, you get to go with us to all these events. And there's generally also quite a lot of help involved when it comes to, for example, building your marketing materials, press kits, press releases, quite a lot. Thank you. More questions? Oh. Okay.
Thank you very much, Laura Bularca. All right. So we're going to have another short break before the final event of the day, which will be a panel. So go out, stretch your legs, and get ready for the last event. Thank you for listening.